Everyone, and welcome to the Skill Series Introduction to Entrepreneurship workshop. My name is Heike Tahir, and thank you for coming to our live stream. In this workshop, we're going to cover the basics of how you can be a successful entrepreneur. We have a couple of guest speakers here to help you understand your taxes. And so I'd like to introduce Mark. He is the CEO and founder of Oomba, and Malvin is the co-founder of Proximity. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to post them in the YouTube live chat, and we'll get to them at the end during our open panel discussion. All right, so let's get started. So first we have Mark Ritz. He is currently enrolled in the Mechatronics Engineering program at Ontario Tech. And he's also the founder and CEO of Oomba, a safety equipment company that develops innovative solutions for emergency responders. Mark genuinely believes that he has two fundamental goals in his life. First, constantly absorb new information, and second, apply this information towards altruistic goals. Ever since Mark was a child, he has always subscribed to the idea of protecting people. It was his second nature to him. This ideology has allowed Mark to empathize with emergency responders as an entrepreneur. As a result of this empathy, he is able to tailor solutions that best serve society's protectors, which is emergency responders. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
All right, so I guess I'm gonna get right into it. And I'd just like to mention that I am part of the Brilliant Incubator program, or the Brilliant Catalyst as it's called now. And it's actually a phenomenal program. I've been enrolled since 2017. And really the Brilliant Catalyst, it's one of those programs that jumpstarts your entrepreneurial journey. They contain amazing guest speakers. They bring in guest speakers and mentors that are vital to your growth, and they present to you new ways of looking at things. And also they teach you the vital skills, essentially like a toolkit to go out in the world and truly experience entrepreneurship firsthand. And they truly believe in the idea of the education of entrepreneurship to properly equip the next generation of entrepreneurs. So a big shout out to the Brilliant Catalyst for all their help and their assistance in my startup and the resources they made available to me. So going into it, I want to start off by underscoring the soft skills required to start a business. Because it's one thing to Google the basic toolkit for starting a business. Oh, what's the 101 on accounting? What's the 101 on pick one. Like, it's just incorporating. But these are very basic things you can look up and be good at, but in a very short period of time, I guess, just to get you started. However, there are fundamental soft skills you need to be baked into your psyche. I want to start listing them as in the order of my experience. Pretty much, I've experienced each of these skills and find these revelations in the sequential order, and that's what helped me reach to this point. So the first thing that really helped me in my entrepreneurial journey was nonlinear thinking. Now, what that means is it's simply what it actually is. It's nonlinear. Like, it's not like straightforward step A, step B, step C. It's more like, step A, step A part 2, step B part 3. Like, it's like, what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to follow one straight line. It can be organic thinking. And the good thing is this, being able to teach yourself nonlinear thinking, or being able to be a nonlinear thinker, what it does is that it gives your mind an open-mindedness, a clarity, right? And so you're not so restricted to a regimen, a rhythm, right? And that you don't want to be restricted or rigid when you're doing a startup. In fact, you need to be adaptable, right? That's one of the biggest problems with people starting a company, is that they think they have to be married to an idea. And really, that's not the case. Your idea can morph. It can form to a new business. You can change things. You can come up with a new business idea entirely. But open-mindedness is the ticket to that adaptability. And one should be mindful of that. I'll tell you a quick story. Like for me, like my nonlinear thinking, it's kind of a weird story, but it's just how we came up with our first product. It's so I was playing a video game, and in the video game, there's someone shot a flammable flare to signal another player in the game, right? So essentially, like, at first glance, I'm like, oh, that was a cool little graphic, but why did I have to make a big deal out of it? I started asking myself questions like, what's the reasoning behind it? Like, why is it burning that bright? Why is it that, volatile? Because it was catching other things on fire. So, that nonlinear thinking, it's not just like I play a game, something happened, I had fun. It was more like I played a game, my open mind, like, was really just started questioning things. And that's what brought me to that idea. Like, oh my God, flammable flares are insanely volatile, full of chemicals, and they're actually horrible for your respiratory system. So I would not have reached that revelation if I had a restricted mind where I only saw a video game and only a video game, not really a message or something that could have led to something else. So, that's just a very, very brief or a quick example of how open-mindedness can open doors that you would never imagine going through. And the next skill I'd say is critical thinking. I think second to that, critical thinking is a very lacked uncovered skill that most people talk about because most people don't like to ask themselves why. They just like to say, okay, what is this? Then it is, right? They ask the what and that's it. But the why is the reason behind the startup, right? Like it's like, why is this a problem? Why does this person suffer from problem X, right? So like, this is really the genesis of idea formulation for a startup, right? To start a company. Because once you know the problem and once you know that this person is suffering from this problem, you ask yourself, okay, why does this problem exist? Well, because factors A, B, and C. Then you can go down that path of further examination and asking, well, why are these factors there? What's the importance of these factors? And before you know it, you have a clear problem statement. You have clear objectives on what to solve in terms of the factor A, B, and C. And now you know who cares enough to buy a solution if someone does come up with an effective solution because this problem is still prevalent. So that's just the way to think when it comes to, coming up with a product, coming up with a service or a solution, right? Critical thinking is key. You can't be vague, you can't be generic. You got to be explicit and critical in your thinking. And that's the best way to, come to real conclusions that, other people will respect and understand, especially investors, right? Because they'll ask why, especially when their money's on the table, they want to make sure all their questions are satisfied. So there's that. I guess that the third, skill, not even a skill, it's more of a lesson or that you got to remind yourself is self-discipline. It's very easy, to get comfortable in the world of entrepreneurship where people say, oh, congratulations, you failed this many times. You must be a growth hacker or something like that. Like they say some random buzzwords that it's very common now. People are fetishizing failure, in other words. And that's a recipe for disaster because most people won't be honest with themselves. And that's what discipline's all about. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to remind yourself that, yes, I have a task. My task is to do this. My startup does this. And any deviation from that is the lack of discipline. Sure, you may be tired. You may have school, but that's time management. It's a separate discussion. But assuming you have the time, assuming you have the skill set, and you're not doing it, self-discipline is taking a major hit. And that's something that you need to be mindful of. And again, comfort is a silent killer. If everyone's telling you constantly, like, "Oh, you failed on this task, good job, keep failing," right? But that really means is, okay, don't get comfortable with the failure. Don't get comfortable analyzing the failure. Look into it more, right? Look into, how you can blossom from the failure. Why did you fail, right? And that takes discipline, being honest with yourself and being real with your next steps. And the great way for having discipline is having people around you that care about you, right? A mentor, a tight friend group that sees you slacking and they'll push you as you need. And that's also something I'd highly recommend to look into. It's develop your self-discipline, especially when you're starting a company. um, the fourth is grit. I'd say grit is something that most, so it's pretty difficult to come by, especially when things do get tough. And I know the times we're living in right now, you need grit now more than ever. COVID-19 did a number on people psychologically, and it really is important to, in the face of adversity, you need to hold your ground. That's something I'd highly recommend, especially when you're entering a startup, because it's no secret that when you start a company, the success isn't guaranteed. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight. You're not going to come up with a $1 billion unicorn product or idea in one night. That's not guaranteed, but you best be sure the sacrifice and the pain is guaranteed. You are entering a place that doesn't really, it's very busy. It's very competitive, right? Because when you're starting out with nothing, it's not going to be forgiving, especially when you do go through tough times. When we go into debt, you lose something that was important to your business. So, and this is why grit is, this is a moment where you either you make it or you break it in your potential to be something great. The difference between a Jeff Bezos and a nobody that starts a business is because that person had the grit to push through. And this person had their own life problems. They had debt, they have, relationship problems, whatever the case may be. They had that and they had to go through that just like you. They're human just like you. The secret, there is no secret. It's just you need to stay true to yourself and push through the times that are going to come, the hard times that are definitely going to come knocking on your door. However, there are great things you can do to get you past these times. Keeping your eye on the vision. Why did you start your company? Why did you start progressing in this field, in this area of entrepreneurship? That's one thing. Another thing is that you keep your mentors close. I can't stress this enough. Create a list of mentors that you can come to with your problems, and that they've lived through this before you, and they can guide you, right? They got your hand. They got you their best intentions for you, right? And the last thing you would want to do to enhance your grit is finding the lessons in whatever you fail in. The lesson really behind the pain is what's going to evolve you. That's what gets you to the next level. So, and that comes with the grit and the mental maturity to know there's a lesson here, and I can take this lesson, study it, and enhance my skill set as an entrepreneur. That is by far one of the best things you can do for yourself as well as a human, right? It doesn't even need to apply to entrepreneurship. But that's the one thing those are the things you could exercise to improve your grit. And the final thing, I guess, one of the most important things as an entrepreneur is resourcefulness, right? So being resourceful, it's such a vital component when you're starting out, because you got, it's not like you have a trust fund you can dig into and say, all right, I need $50,000. I need to buy some high tested, high expensive, high cost equipment to start prototyping and R&Ding. That's just not the case for most people, right? For me, I had this problem of I'm developing a hardware product, and anyone in hardware can tell you that it's one of the most unforgiving startups ever, because it's tech hardware. It's not like it's food or anything, but like when it comes to tech, you need to 3D print a lot of stuff, produce a lot of parts really fast, to test it really fast, to come to a conclusion quicker. So for me, I asked myself, well, okay, I need this part made to test this one feature of the product. What can I do? I don't have money at the moment. So I asked myself, are there any free 3D printers around, or 3D printing vendors around me right now? This is like when I was about to leave high school. I was in my summer, and I was just running around trying to find 3D printers. And, some guy gave me a quote for like, here's a $700 print I can give you. I'm like, I can't afford that. I just finished high school. Like, there's no way I can get that kind of cash. And and then I just walked into a library as my, Hail Mary. Sure enough, the library offers free 3D printing. And, just by my luck, I was able to produce a ton of parts, and I was able to expedite my testing, expedite my R&D, right? And I came to conclusions far quicker than if I were to, wait and do a crowdfunding of $700 of, for someone who doesn't even know me, right? So that's something that's really key. And that life, that life lesson I learned of being resourceful, especially in the name of entrepreneurship, it really can open doors for you, right? And the one thing I should mention though, when it comes to resourcefulness, is that you start seeing the value of resourcefulness once your network starts to grow. Because when your network grows, your connections grow, your professional network. And that with that happening, you have more resources in your Rolodex. You know what I mean? So like, oh, okay, I need someone that's good at marketing. Okay, who do I know does good marketing and gives me a good price, or even no price, and just does me a favor, and I can do them a favor later, right? So these being resourceful is extremely valuable, especially when you're starting a business. And really, that brings us to the end of the soft skills that are, in my opinion, the most vital skills you can have as an entrepreneur. And I think that like having these skills would smooth out your experience a lot more than without them. Then that's it.
Thank you for sharing, Mark. That was like some amazing skills on how people can use different resources and start their own businesses with like soft skills that you talked about. So next up, we have Malavan Balachandra. Malavan is a fifth year life science and management student at OTU and current VP of operations for Enactus. He is also a co-founder with his medical simulation startup Proximity, with the official title of Chief Sales Officer. His startup recently went through the Brilliant Catalyst Incubator program offered by our university and is on track to be fully operational in June. He is here today to share his journey and provide valuable insight into what starting a business looks like as a student. You can take it away, Melvin.
Hey guys, pleasure to be here. I really enjoy this kind of stuff. Can I just share my screen real quick? And I have a mini presentation that I feel like would help you guys. All right, is that okay? Easy to be seen?
Yep, you're good.
All right, sounds good. All right, so good afternoon, guys. Again, my name is Malavan. I'm a fifth year life science and management student. And so this is my company, Proximity. So Proximity is a medical simulation-based company that aims to provide aspiring medical professionals with an accessible means to practice their skills in terms of simulation. And we use design thinking methodologies to sort of empathize, validate, and manufacture our products using a close-knit consultation-based relationship, in addition to the production of readily available commercial models as well. So we have a consultation model and then a commercial model. Even though I'm a life science student and I've always been intertwined with the business mindset. So I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. So even though I'm a life sciences student, right? At work, I'm a sales associate. So I currently sell phones and mobile plans for Rogers and Telus. And then I also get the chance to meet different clients with different backgrounds and different mindsets. And sort of help them in the process of looking for a new phone. In my spare time, I help organizations sort of with their social media landscape, in particular Instagram. But unfortunately, in terms of starting a business, my thing was I often struggled to find that one idea or one purpose. For me, problems can be overwhelming, hard to process. And I knew the problem-based solution it wasn't working for me. I set out to sort of find a better way to sort of consolidate my thoughts and develop my business. All right, I'm just going to go to my next slide. So at Proximity, these are just a sample of our products. We believe in connecting, practicing, and then innovating, right? So again, two approaches, the consultation-based approach and then the commercialization approach. Here is important. This is important. Leveraging what you have is key. Everyone has that sort of one thing they're sort of good at. Maybe you're tech savvy, or maybe you're good at marketing, or maybe even if you don't know what you're good at, like finding that one thing that really ignites something in you, right? And sort of using that as leverage to um, make yourself more appealing to businesses, or using that to sort of fuel your business journey, right? For me, it was the social media stuff, right? Before I even got into proximity, before I even got into sort of starting a business, um, in order to help build my network. So when, as mentioned before, the network is really, really key and important. In order to help build that network, I used social media. I used my ability to create posts, to brand, and to create something new out of just a simple, uh, original Instagram style of Facebook. Um, I use that to help leverage, right? And for me, it was through an educational organization called Maxim Health. So Maxim Health, sort of the organization needed to, this is a research-based organization, and they really had trouble sort of bringing their research-based knowledge into the commercialization aspect of things. So we would have products being created, products being made, or products being researched, but nothing really commercialized or useful that someone can sort of use on a daily basis. So we set out to sort of create a new approach to sort of commercialize this and make it just better and more accessible for people. All right, so like this will sort of lead into what I have to talk about today, and this is sort of my mindset, my journey, and these are the things I've learned along my journey. So key is important is framing the way you think, right? What to do with just an idea, how to validate your idea, how to develop a prototype, what helped me along the way, and what are the resources available. All right. So framing the way you think, the design thinking approach. So as mentioned before, like the problem solution approach, where it's just again that one linear mindset where, oh, here's a problem. All right, I'm gonna find a solution for that problem, is for me, it's outdated. It's hard to use. Instead, I would say empathize, ask questions, ask your why, right? So the first key is empathize with your customers, or empathize with whoever you want to sort of aim to solve a problem for, right? So in that sense, conduct interviews, uncover emotions. How do they feel, right? Seek stories. And then through that, you can then define, okay, these are the pain points. This is what the customer, or this is what this person is feeling and frustrated about. How can I use that knowledge that I just gained to sort of create something for them, right? It's people centered. It's not problem centered, it's people centered. And that really defines a business versus just a product, right? Um, all right, so some sample engagement scripts. I found it really, really hard to sort of even start a conversation about an idea, right? It's an extremely, like, you don't know who to talk to, you don't know who to sort of navigate this process with. So literally, this is what I do. So some engagement scripts. I heard you had a problem with blank, right? And then how does that make you feel? If you could do blank, would that help? Right? If I could create a solution for you that makes your online navigating easier, would that help you with your journey of getting clients? Right? How can, and then also again, how can I make your life easier? This is the key to any business, right? People are willing to shed money for um, products and for solutions that enable an easier life for those using a product or without the product, right? Versus without the product, right? I would encourage you guys to sort of come up with things of your own, come up with these engagement scripts, and sort of frame those sort of questions that they can like uh, relate to, and therefore it just will become so much more easier for you. And the key here is to talk to as many people as possible, as many people. If you talk to your network, reach out to random people on the streets even, right? how to reach out. So surveys. Surveys are key. They're big. They're very overplayed though. So you have to be careful about how you sort of map and create those surveys. Virtual meetings is key. And this is a pandemic. This is hard. You can't meet someone in person, or you can't go to an event. You can't really do that kind of in-person stuff as before. So virtual meetings are key. The biggest point here is referrals, right? Once you have an idea and you want to sort of validate it and you want to make sure that you're reaching a correct audience, you sort of find a person, you talk to them about your idea, you pitch it, and then you ask them, do you know anyone who would be interested in this sort of idea or in this sort of solution or in this sort of problem, right? And then you get their contact info, and then you sort of build your network that way, right? You build your network through other people. Facebook groups, interviews, emails, even asking the people you live with. So the person I live with is my best friend is my business partner now, right? Because he has the skills, the design skills, the creation skills, and the prototyping skills that I needed to sort of continue on in my business journey. And now we live together, and we're very, very vital partners, and we go throughout this journey, right? So once you sort of have the idea, like I want to build a plane that is eco-friendly, right? You pitch it, right? You do your research on it. So pitching it to people is very, very important. Um, Try pitching it to everyone you possibly can. But if you're not okay with that, I know a lot of people, this is a big sort of issue with people. It's like, oh, I feel like my idea will get stolen, right? And like, it's true. Like, there are people out there who will try to steal your idea. I'm not saying that's not true, but I'm saying is, if you don't share your idea, if you don't pitch your idea and ask people that you trust at least for their opinion, your idea is never gonna sort of grow more than an idea, right? You need feedback. Feedback is so crucial. Doing your research, whether it may be a couple of Google searches, market analysis, um, finding other companies that are in your competitor space, right? Seeing what they did to sort of create the solution. And more importantly, like other solutions for the same problem that you're trying to address, right? For me, medical simulations is the other solution would be, oh, virtual reality, right? What is virtual reality? What does it do? You know, and then doing the research on, okay, so we do hands-on simulations. These guys do virtual reality. How does it compare? What's the benefits of mine? What is the benefits of theirs? What are the pros, cons? And sort of evaluating that is important. Creating a business model canvas. You can find so many tools of this online. So I'm not really going to go into depth of it. There's so many YouTube videos and other things sort of helping along the process. And then lastly, like creating it, like prototyping, like again, 3D printing is huge now. I'm sure you guys can go on Facebook Marketplace or like that and find a really, really cheap way to sort of create your idea or create a prototype. But again, things are free too, right? Like Google has APIs that you can use. You can reach out to a friend and ask them for a favor, but like, hey, I want to create this. How do I do this in a free manner? There's free trials, and leverage your school. If you're a student, this is huge. Leverage the resources that your school provides. And I'm sure there's many of them. And with the Brilliant Catalyst, that's a way to do that, right? Is to talk to people at the Brilliant Catalyst, see what resources they can provide you, and then applying that to your business and helping develop your idea and sort of make it further than just an idea, but into a business, right? Developing a prototype. I was gonna say, like, the key thing, you could draw out a solution to a problem, right? Take a pencil, take a paper, say, okay, this is how I want my organization flow to look like, right? This is what I see, like the visual, these are the features of it. And once you start drawing it out, like it becomes so much more clearer in your head. This is like, then you start looking at the details and you can further develop this idea, right? And then again, Google has so many phenomenal resources for businesses. especially if you're in a tech business and you want to develop an app or integrate sort of existing methodologies or programs sort of into your app, then Google's really, really key. There's a lot of manifests or instruction manuals and stuff like that to help you along your journey. So leverage that, right? The free, like the most freest thing online right now is Google, right? That's the best possible way for you to learn anything to make your problem, uh, to do your sort of prototype. Find the easiest way to get your point across. So a lot of people think a prototype it's this complex thing that you just can't you like it's so hard to use, um hard to create. You don't need to create the next Facebook or the next Instagram. All you need is a proof of concept. What's the minimal value, like what's the smallest or cheapest way you could use to get your idea across while still getting your idea across, right? And that's more than enough. All right. Validation. So this is key. Like once you have your idea, once you sort of have a prototype, or even before the prototype stages, would people pay for it? Are people willing to give you cash to invest in your idea? Because like if they're not willing to give you cash, then you need to go back to the drawing board, right? And say, okay, how can I turn this into an actual business with actual financial flow, right? Are you solving the problem? Some people, a lot of times, they create a solution and they bypass the problem completely, right? And they have this own like version of, oh, I want to solve it this way, but is that way really solving the problem? It's sort of that critical thinking again and analysis of that. Is there an easier existing solution, right? You like if there already is an easier existing solution and you've already spent all that time creating and ideating a product that makes just more difficult, then what's the point, right? People are just going to go with the easier way. So it's good to do your research beforehand to see, okay, is there a solution that's easier out there, right? Is it easier to adopt? This is huge in terms of um, the future, right? A lot of people create products that are or have an idea that may be too advanced for what is available currently. So, is there a timeline on when the technology you need will be available to create what you need to create, right? And understanding that and identifying that is really important. And the final thing is always ask why, right? Why does it work this way? Why does it, and like you start off, there's a 5 why methodology where you ask why 5 times, and then that will help you lead to a more deep and thoughtful sort of communication and discussion, and which you could take a lot of information from. So always when you're trying to figure out an idea or asking the client a question or trying to see why your problem is a problem, keep asking why, and that's the key. Um, Another thing is strengths. It's a SWOT method. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Right? What are the strengths of your product? What are the weaknesses of your product? What opportunities can you sort of leverage to make your product better? Or in this sense of the dental office or finding a dental location is um, will like is there a condo being built that you can sort of use the leverage space or have those people have an increased client base or to like what are the factors involved in bringing customers to your business, right? What are the opportunities available that you can exploit? And then threats, right? What's preventing people from accessing your solution? And it's important to understand that because both weaknesses and threats may be like you may think of it as a bad thing for your business, but it can also prevent you from making mistakes in the long run and actually creating a solution that is worth it for your customers, right? How to pitch an idea. I like to always have 2 versions of my pitch. So the one sentence explanation. So in one sentence, how would you be able to pitch your idea? And then also a story style explanation. So you use a persona or someone sort of like, oh, Bob is a teacher and he has this problem. He has these frustrations. And this is what Bob will need to do. And this is how I can help Bob, right? That's the story style, is using a person-centered approach or a persona. And then the one sentence style is literally like if you're in an elevator, right? And you're talking to someone, you want to tell them this is your idea, one sentence, that's it. Right? That's all you have. That's all people want to pay attention to, right? So having those two versions of your pitch and then being ready to extrapolate on that is really, really important. I put here, watch an episode of Dragon's Den. Like I learned so much about pitching and what to include in a pitch, and also like how critical, like what people frown upon in the pitch, like what business people frown upon and what they are happy about, through Dragon's Den. And it's surprising because you think it's just a show. Oh, I don't really care. Oh, it's just a joke. But if you use everything you learned, all your resources, like you can become a master pitcher in no time. And I believe that, right? So leverage your resources. And most importantly, practice, right? Practice makes perfect. Pitch to anything. Like stare at yourself in the mirror and pitch to the mirror, right? And make sure that your posture is okay. What you're saying, you're articulating correctly, so that like you gain that confidence, so that when you're pitching in front of a CEO of a company, you're ready, right? You're ready to make those moves, which is great. Okay, some of the resources that really helped me. I know a lot of people think, oh, incorporation is hard, right? It's this barrier that I don't think I'll ever cross, or it might not be like sort of available for me, or it might be too expensive and everything like that. So, but through my incorporation, when incorporating proximity, I used Owner. Owner.co is such an amazing sort of platform where it helps you actually incorporate your business in an effective, understandable manner. And then it reduces, so like the incorporation process reduces personal liability, right? So if your business ever goes bankrupt, or there's a problem with your business or anything like that, it's not all on you, right? It's an incorporated, it's separate, it's separate business identity, right? And then it makes you eligible for grants and help. A lot of like startup incubators or anything like that, they'll ask you, are you incorporated? I know some of the basic ones don't, but as soon as you go like a little bit more in depth, or like more of the like Futurepreneur or Spark Center, right? They will ask you, are you incorporated? Right? And being incorporated is a leverage for your business, right? It can be expensive, but if you go through Owner, they have an amazing partnership with RBC, that if you set up an RBC bank account, you sort of get $200 back from the whole incorporation process, which I found it was sweet, right? For me, when I was first starting off, I reached out to the Business Advisory Center of Durham. Not a lot of people know this exists, which is really surprising for me, right? The Business Advisory Center of Durham, like it's an amazing resource. You can literally go to them with an idea, and they will help you navigate through this whole entire process. Everything I'm explaining today, right? You can talk about your business. You can ask for expertise, right? If you need a trademarking person, this is where you would go and be like, hey, I need this for my business, right? I need to reach out to this specific person with these specific skill sets, or like a coder or a programmer that would help you sort of make that connection. Is like, this is what they're there for, right? The hub for business resources. Um, Lastly, some personal tips. Like, this is so important. You're good enough, right? You're like, a lot of people, like even me, like you self-doubt yourself so many times when throughout this whole business process. And I'm telling you not to, right? You're good enough to run a business. I believe so, because anyone can run a business, anyone, right? As long as you're willing to work hard, sort of learn and keep an open mindset, you're definitely gonna like, you're gonna thrive. And even if that's not the best business idea, another one will come along your way. Through so many failures, so like even me personally, like I've had so many businesses that just ended up failing, right? Because of being a student, not having enough time, and it's hard, right? It's hard to manage that time sometimes. And as a result, some businesses of mine used to fail, right? But now, once you have this opportunity, you want to take it and you want to sort of run with it. And that's really the mindset I have with proximity. And what I like to think about is you go so far that you can't go back, right? You can't say, oh, I can't do this anymore. You're in so deep that you're like, okay, now I have to see it through, right? There's no exit plan, right? You have to make it happen. This is what you believe. And that's sort of the mindset where I encourage people to have, right? Set a deadline. If you have a task to do or anything like that, set yourself a deadline and say, okay, in 2 months, I want to set up my business. I want to get it up and running and going. Even if you don't meet that deadline, you still came a long way just by reaching that like sort of goal or setting that goal, setting that deadline, right? You still come a lot further than if you're just saying, oh, I have this idea, I'll do it in the future. And a lot of people have that mindset. It's like, oh, I'll do it later. Set yourself a deadline, set yourself a date where it's like, I want to have this done by this date, right? Always ask questions to anyone you see, anyone, like, if you don't understand something, ask, right? If you want to get, if you even have a sliver of a doubt, or even if you don't have a doubt, ask why, ask um, open-ended questions, and make sure you understand everything that you need to do before going ahead, right? And then most importantly, take small steps every day. Like every day, do something, right? I know it may be hard. It may be like some days you might be like, okay, I'm going to help design this logo. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to design the logo for my business this day. Or the next day it'll be like, okay, I'm going to contact one person, right? That will help me understand my business better. That's it, right? Contacting that one person or taking that small step, eventually over 365 days, it adds up. Even if you don't use every single day, right? Those little tasks that you do add up and they help you develop your business further. And that's about it for me, guys. So hope you found that really insightful.
Yeah, thank you, Melvin, for sharing all those tips and tricks with everyone. Um, I'm just gonna take back screen share really quick. And we're just gonna move on to our general questions. So this is like an open panel. So there's gonna be questions for both of you. And if anyone in the YouTube chat would also like their questions answered, right now is the time to put them below and I will read them out. But for now, we do have a few questions that we have prepared that have been asked and are kind of frequently asked questions. So the first one is, how do you balance your time between school and your own personal business? Either of you guys can answer and then kind of bounce off each other.
All right, I guess, at least for my answer, I would have to say, the balance comes over time. It's like it's tuned, as you progress, right? And by tuned, I mean you got to find the right ratio between startup work and school work, right? And that can mean a variety of things, and depends on your workload. For example, let's just say you have an assignment due, that's coming up within a week, but at the same time, you have an important pitch to in an incubator, for example, coming up, on the same week. This is you have to schedule your time effectively, so in a way that you can time block parts of your days leading up to that deadline that can get the most done, right? So it's really you're going to be tired, but it's all about time blocking. I think time blocking is a very undervalued skill on your, putting on your calendar, dedicating your times to only one task at a time to meet both deadlines. I think those are time blocking will keep you honest with your schoolwork and of course your startup work. I think those are very valuable. That's a very effective way to manage your time. At least that's from my experience. At least that's what how I found it to be. And of course, over time, there will be problems where you just can't do either, and that's where the sacrifice comes, right? So you got to be mindful of what kind of sacrifice you want to make, and it's over time that ratio between school and startup work will get more refined, and you'll be in a better shape. You'll be in a better position. But yeah. That's my 2 cents on it. Melvin, what do you think?
I was gonna say, like, I agree. Like, managing your time is it's so important. Um, I would say, like, also like understanding your limitations, like understanding, oh, this is all that I can manage right now, and this is how I'm going to do it. Like if school's a lot, like if you have a heavy school workload and you sort of understand that, okay, I'm going to have a midterm, 2 exams or whatever, like, and then a couple assignments due all in 1 week. And like knowing that and knowing that, okay, I might not have enough time to sort of work on my startup or work on my business idea is planning ahead, right? So like knowing your limitations and then planning your off weeks where you have less stuff to do, focus more on your business, right? What I like to do, and this is how I sort of frame it, is I write down a list of all my deadlines and due dates in terms of school and all my obligations in terms of school and then all my obligations in terms of a business, right? Whether it may be. And I find a lot of the time, the obligations due to a business is like it's not as much, or it could be spread out and focused on certain weeks. It's more fluid than a deadline for an exam, for instance, right? And by recognizing that, I can say, okay, today, like this week, I'm free. I don't really have that much stuff sort of on my plate. So I can spend more time contacting clients, or I can spend more time developing my business idea on this week, and sort of identifying your busy weeks and non-busy weeks and integrating it together. I found it's really important and it really helps me.
And that's some good advice in terms of like balancing your schoolwork, as a lot of people that are watching are still in school. So the next question that was frequently asked was, what was a key driving factor that kind of had you make your own business? So what was a key driving factor that made you like start the business of proximity and um, Uber? I'm sorry if I keep saying that wrong, but what was a key driving factor in that?
You can go ahead first, Melvin.
All right, sounds good. In terms of the key driving factor for me, I would say network, right? Huge part of my business is expertise, right? So because we are currently partnered now with a university professor at U of T, like that key driving factor is your network is who you know and who you talk to, and then those from those people you get your pain points and you get your sort of, oh, what they need and how you can help them, and then you build your business from there, right? You it's a people first approach, right? You use your network to help you sort of ideate and create what they need, and you provide a solution for them, right? So I would say the network is the key thing to sort of even like start your business or even start that sort of ideation project process. Marcus.
So that's really good. It's good to hear that. That was, that was your motivation. It's good to see that, there was a motivation, So, but for me, I guess my driving force would be, altruism. The one thing I've noticed, as in high school is that even before that, I noticed I've always liked just stopping pain in a very simple word, stopping pain. And that can be all sorts of things, stopping a bully, that for someone that can't help themselves, right? I want to be the guy that stops that. Or better yet, if someone's in pain, physical pain, I want to be the guy that mends that pain. And all these thoughts circulated my head in a very confusing time of high school. And I started wondering, hey, should I be a police officer? And then I realized the limitations of being a police officer, which is I serve and protect within a certain area, a certain region, which is great. And it's a great, very rewarding experience. However, I asked myself another question. If the main goal for me to feel satisfied is to help as many people as possible, police officer is not the way to go. If I want to achieve higher impact and large and broader reach, why not design stuff for police officers everywhere to make their jobs not only safer, but their ability to serve people more streamlined. So pretty much the products we make better equip emergency responders, and in effect that will protect more people. It's sort of a domino effect. So that's what really motivated me to start this company and start Umbo. It's just that pursuing that domino effect of protection. That's just something I gravitate towards and I obsess over. It's just why every detail matters in any product I design for these emergency responders, because they're at the front lines. They're at the point where they need the most safety. It's like they need the most help, right, to help others. So that's really where it stems from for me.
Yeah, thank you for answering that question. We do have a question from the chat, and I guess Melvin, you can kind of elaborate on it as well because you do have experience with it. But the question is, if you create a business with your best friend, will it hurt your friendship at times?
Honestly, like so far, like being in business with my best friend it's also like the type of person your best friend is too, right? Like if they're willing to sort of work with you on that. Like my best friend is supporting, open. We talk about all the aspects of our business, even though he does the prototyping and the design part of it, and I sort of do the business and marketing side of it. Like even though we do separate roles, we always ask each other. Communication is so key here. And by like addressing your fear, like will it hurt your friendship? I think like me starting a business actually made my friendship a lot stronger, right? It's all in like the foundation is like, again, it's who you choose your friends are. Like if your friends is the type of person to sort of support you and be clear and outright with how they think, then I would say like it won't hurt your friendship, right? There's always going to be a difference in opinion. There's always at some point in every business, even with mine at some times, there's always a difference in opinion, right? But addressing that difference in opinion and moving forward from that in sort of like compromising, but not really compromising in the sense is like understanding both sides and forming a solution, and consolidating sort of that problem is so key and it's so important. And if you're able to do that with your best friend, then yeah, it will work. Like you will flourish. You will have a good sort of experience, right? So that's all I really have to say for that is like first see if your best friend is that type of person, right? And maybe that will help. Um, and maybe they're not that type of person, right? Maybe they need some extra push, or then I would say is find a solution that benefits both parties, right? But don't be scared about it. Don't be scared of inviting your best friend to sort of be a part of your business, because a lot of good things can happen as a result, in my experience as well. But yeah, Mark, if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think you hit all the points very clearly. And yeah, again, communication, just echoing your points, communication and reminding yourself that there is an end goal here. And whatever move you do, it must support that end goal. Even if you disagree, you have to remember you both are on the same team and you both have the same goal, which is to do something great, to make a solution that's great. The minute you have that mutual agreement, understanding, you will always respect the person's opposition to your, or you will, any clash you'll have will be good natured because you both know you're both putting in your passion and your belief that your solution will help get both of you guys to that goal. Really, that's what I think. That mutual understanding is key, especially with working with such an intimate friend. But yeah, that's it when it comes to working with people like that.
Yeah, thank you for answering that question. So the next question is, at what point did you realize that your business had potential?
So, I can quickly touch upon this. I realized that, the Umbo had the potential to become a legitimate business was when you go to pitching events, and certain people in the crowd that would buy your product jump up and they say, "Oh, when can we have a meeting with you?" that's a very great indicator of people that of a viable business. Because that happened to me before. I've made presentations to a professional network of people in an incubator, or even an open environment where there's a competition, right? A pitch competition, and sure enough, one of my potential customers would be there, and they come up to me after the presentation. They say, okay, give me your email address, I want to talk to you, and start planning out next steps. So, and those same people are right now like planning with us a beta test coming up in this summer. So that's goes to show you that the more you put yourself out there, sure, bad things can happen, but a lot of good things can happen as well. So putting yourself out there, presenting, and really embrace the discomfort is the best way to find out if your business will have legs or not. Of course, in other words, validate. So yeah, that's the moment where I realized like I got something here, when people started responding, and the messaging I was putting out was resonating with these people. And yeah, that's what led to me really is realizing this.
I was just gonna add a little bit to that. It's so important. Validation is so key. Like me going through the Brilliant Incubator program and like actually talking to these people, pitching my idea and getting feedback is like, that's when I agree. That's when your idea has legs, right? Like that's when you understand that people understand that, okay, this has potential, right? And that really helped me. That really helped me sort of consolidate and create like, okay, I'm doing something good, and people like what I'm doing, what I'm providing, right? And that's really like when someone's willing to write you a check, they'll be like, hey, here, take my money. That's when your idea is good, right? Whether it may be an angel investor or anyone else, like, or even just a friend, but like, hey, I want to buy one of your products. That's when that's the key to any business, really, right? Is having someone buy your products.
Yeah. And so for our last, so how can you mitigate risk when you're starting your own company, or how did you guys mitigate risk yourselves when starting your own companies?
I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the easiest way for me to mitigate risk is expertise. Mitigate risk through expertise, right? There's a lot you're gonna be unsure about. There's a lot like you're gonna have problems with, or like there's a lot of legal things about running a business that you may not understand. So counteract that by having a person on your team that has the expertise to sort of deal with that situation. For me, it was expertise through education and validation of our products, right? And we were partnered up with a tier one research chair in simulation that sort of counteracted all that risk we would have to create a product and sort of make it happen, right? So, but by fulfilling that gap and gaining that expertise, we successfully mitigated risks, right? And then also identifying risk, right? A lot of things that like write down, okay, these are all the potential problems that I might face going down this path. And you might not have all the answers, but again, expertise plays a role in identifying risk as well. All right.
Those are all valid points. I couldn't agree more. But I guess, in my opinion as well, more in addition to what you're saying, I'd say a great way to mitigate risk is to be meticulous, leave no stone unturned. And by that, I mean, that's more of a mantra to any problem you have, whether it's lack of education, whether it's lack of funding, whether it's lack of, just progress, maybe general progress. And by being meticulous, you tend to find new things and find new revelations that you didn't know existed. Maybe you found this one funding program that you didn't think you'll get into, but it's a lot of money. So you just be meticulous. Let's try this, try every opportunity that you can. Of course, keeping your time management in check. But leaving no stone unturned can actually lead to amazing opportunities. So that one, grant that you didn't think you'll get, and now you got. So the more money you got in your pocket, the less risk you have, right? At least more of someone else's money, not your money. That's a great way to mitigate risk. But also, when it comes to mitigating risk on failure, like because you don't have a good product, a great way to mitigate that risk is, well, what part of my product am I unsure about? Is this part suck? What part of my product sucks compared to my competitors? And you're very keen on poking holes in your own solution. So being meticulous in your design, being meticulous in your offering of what you're going to offer someone, is really the best way to mitigate as much risk as possible. Pretty much obsessing over the relevant details, not all the details, but the relevant ones, right? That make or break the product. Because at the same time, you don't want to have analysis paralysis. And that's a very, very common problem with entrepreneurs. I'll admit, I suffer from that. So like last year, I had this problem of obsessing over every fundamental part of my assembly for my product, right? Reduce as much cost as possible. And I had delayed a lot of presentations just because I was obsessing over the technical details. But I learned that that's not the case when it comes to running a successful business. Emphasis on the successful. You can't analyze every little thing. At some point, you just got to jump. However, it doesn't mean you should be negligent. So you should be mindful of the opportunity of failure that will come from being negligent. At the same time, the opportunity of failure from being obsessive and excessively obsessive until when you have paralysis, where you can't move anymore. You can't progress anymore. So I think that is the best way to mitigate risk. Finding the balance in the middle between analysis paralysis and negligence, and really finding that right balance between them so you can deliver the most effective solutions possible. Because no one's going to say your product sucks if it helps other people. If your product is truly exceptional and has been proven by dollar bills, no one can take that from you. Then that's how you know you achieve the right balance of meticulousness, not leaving any stone unturned. So yeah, that goes back to what Maladin was saying. That's the dollar bills are the ultimate validation. That's it for that question.
Yeah, so with all these different questions that we had, if you could kind of summarize, and if there's like one piece of advice that the viewers could take away from today, what would that piece of advice be?
Nalvin, go ahead. I'm going to have to take some time on this one.
Yeah, I'm thinking myself too. I would say, honestly, keep trying, right? Like perseverance is so key. Even though your idea, it might not be the one, or it might not be successful as you hope or anything like that, is as long as you keep trying, I swear to you, an opportunity will come your way, or you will have that idea that work out in the end, right? $1 million ideas don't happen overnight. They happen through extensive, like trying, trial and error, and then understanding. So like, all I gotta say is like, keep trying. It will happen eventually, right? I believe. That's it.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's really good. That's one thing that you should really hold on to, especially when times do get tough, and they will get tough. And don't guarantee that. But I guess my final 2 cents on entrepreneurship is adaptability. So adaptability is again related to keeping an open mind and reminding yourself that your first attempt isn't your last, and your first attempt can be remixed to serve a whole new customer segment, or even modifying a certain feature to contribute to the same segment that you set out to serve in the first place. So being adaptable to whatever the market needs and being adaptable to whatever scenario you're in, even when you validate, right? During your validation process, where you ask the user, your expected user, what they like or they don't like, if they say that the whole thing sucks, that's fine. If they say your product sucks as is, ask them where you can improve. And that's how you have adaptive thinking and see how else can I serve this person, or can I serve someone else that can better use this, right? So being malleable, don't be rigid, and roll with the punches. That's my best recommendation.
Thank you both for sharing your journeys as an entrepreneur with us. So before we do go, it would be great for all the attendees if you could fill out the post-event survey at bit.ly/skillseries post-event. And that will just help SkillSeries make better events for everyone in the following year. So thank you everyone that showed up to the live stream. And if you did miss a portion of the stream, the recording will be watchable after 24 hours on our YouTube. And you will be emailed the link. And also follow us on social media with the links that are provided in the PowerPoint right now. And also there is Mark's LinkedIn and Malvin's Instagram if you'd like to connect with them there. But other than that, thank you, Mark and Malvin, for joining us today for this workshop. All your advice and insight was really helpful for everyone that was watching. And yeah, I hope everyone has an amazing rest of your day. Stay safe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me too, guys.
Thank you.